The grand ballroom of Kensington Palace sparkled under the light of 1,000 crystal chandeliers. Golden decorations hung from every corner, and the finest flowers from the royal gardens filled the air with their sweet smell. Tonight was special. It was the annual charity banquet, where the most important people in Britain came together to raise money for children in need. Camilla stood near the entrance, greeting guests with her usual warm smile. She wore a beautiful navy blue dress that sparkled with tiny diamonds. Her hair was perfectly styled, and she looked every bit the queen she had become. People bowed and curtsied as they passed her, showing their respect for the royal family. But inside, Camilla felt nervous. Her hands were slightly shaking as she held her small purse. She kept looking around the room, as if she was waiting for someone or something. Every time the doors opened, her eyes would quickly turn to see who was coming in. William stood across the room, talking to some important business leaders about the charity work they were supporting tonight. He looked handsome in his black suit, and he spoke with confidence about helping disadvantaged children. People gathered around him, listening carefully to every word he said. He was known for his kind heart and his dedication to helping others. Catherine moved gracefully through the crowd, stopping to chat with different guests. She wore a stunning red dress that made her look like a princess from a fairy tale. Everyone loved Catherine. She was kind, beautiful, and always knew exactly what to say to make people feel special. Children especially loved her because she always remembered their names and asked about their families. The evening began perfectly. A famous singer performed beautiful songs, while guests enjoyed expensive wine and delicious food prepared by the palace's best chefs. People laughed and talked about their lives, their work, and their plans for helping the charity. The atmosphere was warm and friendly, exactly what everyone expected from a royal event. Charles walked around the room with a big smile, shaking hands and thanking people for coming. He felt proud of his family and the work they were doing together. This banquet was raising more money than ever before, and he knew it would help thousands of children across the country. He stopped to talk to old friends and made jokes that made everyone laugh. As the night continued, servants moved quietly through the crowd, offering more drinks and small snacks. The palace staff had worked for weeks to make sure everything was perfect. They knew that events like this were very important for the royal family's reputation and for the charities they supported. Camilla excused herself from a conversation with some wealthy donors and walked toward the ladies' room. She needed a moment alone to calm her nerves. But as she walked down the long corridor lined with paintings of past kings and queens, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned around and saw a man in a black suit following her. The man was tall and thin, with dark hair and sharp eyes. He wore expensive clothes, but something about him seemed different from the other guests. He walked with purpose, and his face was serious. When Camilla saw him, her face went pale, and she stopped walking. "Mrs. Parker Bowles," the man said quietly, using her old name instead of calling her Your Majesty. This was very disrespectful, but Camilla didn't correct him. Instead, she looked around nervously to make sure no one else was listening. "What are you doing here?" Camilla whispered. "You promised you would never contact me again. We had an agreement." The man smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. "Agreements can change, Your Majesty, especially when circumstances change. I think we need to have a little chat about old times." Camilla's hands started shaking more. She clutched her purse tighter and looked back toward the ballroom where her family was still entertaining the guests. "Not here. Not tonight. There are too many people around." "Oh." "But I think tonight is perfect," the man said. "All these important people, all these cameras, all these reporters. It would be such a shame if something interesting happened that they could write about in tomorrow's newspapers." Back in the ballroom, William noticed that Camilla had been gone for a while. He looked around the room but couldn't see her anywhere. Catherine was still talking to guests, and Charles was giving a speech about the charity's work. Everything seemed normal, but William had a strange feeling that something wasn't right. He decided to look for Camilla. Maybe she just needed some fresh air or a quiet moment. Royal events could be tiring, especially when you had to smile and talk to hundreds of people. He walked toward the corridor where he thought she might have gone. Meanwhile, Catherine noticed that both William and Camilla were missing from the main room. She continued smiling and talking to guests, but she also felt a little worried. Royal family members usually told each other when they were leaving the main event, even if it was just for a few minutes. The man in the corridor continued talking to Camilla in a low voice. "Do you remember what happened 25 years ago? Do you remember the promises you made? The secrets you asked me to keep?" Camilla's face became even paler. She looked like she might faint. "That was a long time ago. Things were different then. I was different then. Please, just leave me alone." "But you see, keeping secrets is expensive work," the man said. "And prices have gone up over the years. Inflation, you understand. Plus, I've had some financial difficulties recently. I think it's time for you to help an old friend." "This is blackmail," Camilla whispered angrily. "You can't do this to me. Not now. Not when everything is going so well." The man laughed quietly. "Call it whatever you want. But I think you'll find it's much easier to pay me than to explain to your new family why you lied to them all these years." Camilla closed her eyes for a moment, trying to think clearly. She had worked so hard to build her new life. After years of being criticized by the public and the media, people had finally started to accept her as part of the royal family. She had found happiness with Charles, and she had built good relationships with William and Harry. Everything was perfect now. She couldn't let this man destroy it all. "How much do you want?" she asked quietly. "Now that's the spirit," the man said. "I think £5 million would be a good start. Just to help with my immediate expenses, you understand." Camilla gasped. £5 million was an enormous amount of money. Even though the royal family was wealthy, that kind of money would be noticed. There would be questions about where it went and why it was needed. "I don't have that kind of money just sitting around," she said. "Royal finances are complicated. There are accountants and advisors who watch every penny." "Then I guess you'll need to be creative," the man said. "You have 3 days to figure it out. If I don't have the money by then, I'll be having a very interesting conversation with some newspaper reporters. I'm sure they would love to hear about your past." William was walking down the corridor when he heard voices. He recognized Camilla's voice, but he couldn't hear what she was saying. He also heard a man's voice that he didn't recognize. This was strange because all the male guests were supposed to be in the ballroom. He walked quietly toward the voices, trying not to make noise with his shoes on the marble floor. As he got closer, he could hear the conversation more clearly. What he heard made his blood run cold. The man was talking about money, about secrets, about newspapers. William realized that someone was threatening his stepmother. His protective instincts kicked in immediately. No one had the right to threaten any member of his family, especially not in their own home. But then he heard something that confused him. The man mentioned something that happened 25 years ago. He talked about promises and lies. William tried to understand what this could mean. 25 years ago, William was just a teenager. His parents were still married, though he knew they were having problems. Camilla was still married to Andrew Parker Bowles at that time. What could have happened back then that someone could use against her now? William moved closer, hiding behind a large marble pillar. He wanted to hear more before he decided what to do. If someone was trying to hurt his family, he needed to understand the whole situation before he acted. "You're making a big mistake," Camilla was saying. "I'm not the same person I was back then. I have protection now. I have people who care about me." "Protection?" The man laughed. "From who? Your husband, your stepsons? Do you really think they'll still protect you when they learn the truth about what you did?" William's heart started beating faster. What truth was this man talking about? What had Camilla done that was so terrible that someone could blackmail her with it? "I never meant for anyone to get hurt," Camilla said, and William could hear that she was crying now. "It was an accident. Everything went wrong. I was young and scared." "Young and scared," the man said cruelly. "You were old enough to know right from wrong. You were old enough to make your choices, and now you're old enough to pay for them." William felt like the ground was moving under his feet. Camilla had done something terrible in the past, something so bad that she had been hiding it all these years. He thought about all the times she had been kind to him, all the family dinners they had shared, all the holidays they had spent together. Had it all been a lie? He wanted to step forward and confront the man who was threatening her, but he also wanted to know more about what had happened. This secret, whatever it was, involved his family. He had a right to know the truth. The conversation continued for several more minutes. William heard the man give Camilla specific instructions about how to get the money and where to deliver it. He heard Camilla begging the man to leave her alone, promising that she had changed and that she would never hurt anyone again. Finally, the man walked away, leaving Camilla alone in the corridor. William watched as his stepmother leaned against the wall, crying quietly. She looked broken and afraid, completely different from the confident woman who had been greeting guests just an hour earlier. William didn't know what to do. Part of him wanted to comfort Camilla and help her deal with this blackmailer. But another part of him was angry and confused. How could she have kept such a big secret from them? What had she done that was so terrible? He decided to return to the ballroom without saying anything to Camilla. He needed time to think about what he had heard. He needed to figure out what to do with this information. When he walked back into the ballroom, Catherine immediately came over to him. "Where have you been?" she asked. "And where's Camilla? Charles is looking for her." "She'll be back in a minute," William said, trying to keep his voice normal. "She just needed some air." But Catherine could tell that something was wrong. William's face was pale, and he seemed upset about something. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." William forced a smile. "I'm fine. Just thinking about the charity work. It's overwhelming sometimes, seeing how much help these children need." Catherine nodded, but she still felt worried. She had been married to William long enough to know when he was hiding something. She decided to keep an eye on him for the rest of the evening. A few minutes later, Camilla returned to the ballroom. She had fixed her makeup and put on a brave face, but William could see the fear in her eyes. She immediately went to Charles and took his arm, as if she needed his support to stay standing. Charles was happy to see her return. "There you are, darling," he said. "I was starting to worry. Are you feeling all right?" "Just a little tired," Camilla said. "These events can be quite draining." Charles kissed her forehead gently. "We can leave early if you'd like. We've already met with most of the important donors." No, Camilla said quickly. "We should stay until the end. It's important for the charity." William watched this exchange with new eyes. Now he wondered if every conversation, every gesture, every smile from Camilla was hiding something darker. He felt like he was seeing her for the first time, and he didn't like what he was seeing. The rest of the evening passed slowly for William. He went through the motions of talking to guests and supporting the charity, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about the conversation he had overheard, trying to piece together what Camilla might have done 25 years ago. As the evening came to an end, guests started saying goodbye and thanking the royal family for a wonderful event. The charity had raised more money than ever before, and everyone seemed happy with the results. But William felt like everything had changed. The family dinner that was planned for tomorrow, the upcoming royal events, the Christmas celebrations they were planning together. Everything felt different now that he knew Camilla was hiding such a big secret. He wondered if he should tell Catherine what he had heard. He wondered if he should confront Camilla directly. He wondered if he should tell his father. But most of all, he wondered what terrible thing Camilla had done all those years ago, and whether his family was in danger because of it. The next morning arrived gray and cold, matching William's mood perfectly. He had barely slept, tossing and turning as he replayed the conversation he had overheard between Camilla and the mysterious man. Catherine had asked him several times what was wrong, but he couldn't bring himself to tell her. Not yet. He needed to understand more about what was happening before he involved anyone else. William sat in his private office at Kensington Palace, staring out the window at the gardens below. The autumn leaves were falling, creating a carpet of gold and red on the walking paths. Normally, this peaceful view helped him think clearly, but today his mind felt like it was spinning in circles. He picked up his phone several times, thinking about calling someone for advice. His first thought was Harry, but his brother was dealing with his own problems and living far away. He considered calling his father, but how could he tell Charles that his beloved wife was being blackmailed for something terrible she had done in the past? The more William thought about it, the more questions he had. What could Camilla have done 25 years ago that was so serious someone could blackmail her for £5 million? Murder? Theft? Some kind of scandal that would destroy the royal family's reputation? He remembered how happy his father had been when he married Camilla. After years of loneliness following Diana's death, Charles had found love again. The public had slowly accepted Camilla, and she had worked hard to prove herself worthy of being queen. If this secret came out, it would destroy not just her, but Charles too. Meanwhile, across London, Camilla was having her own terrible morning. She sat in her private sitting room at Clarence House, holding a cup of tea that had gone cold hours ago. She hadn't slept at all. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the man's face and heard his cruel voice threatening to destroy everything she had built. She thought back to that night 25 years ago, the night that had haunted her ever since. She had been so young and foolish then, making decisions without thinking about the consequences. She never imagined that her past would come back to hurt her so many years later. Charles had left early for a meeting with government officials, kissing her goodbye and telling her she looked tired. He suggested she should rest today and maybe see a doctor if she wasn't feeling well. Camilla had smiled and promised she would take care of herself, but inside she felt like she was dying. The man had given her 3 days to get the money. Today was day 1, and she had no idea how to get £5 million without anyone noticing. Royal finances were carefully watched by accountants, advisors, and government officials. Every large expense had to be explained and approved. She considered selling some of her jewelry, but even her most expensive pieces wouldn't come close to £5 million. She thought about asking for a loan, but from whom? And how could she explain what she needed the money for? Camilla's phone rang, startling her out of her dark thoughts. It was her sister Annabelle, calling to chat about family plans for Christmas. Normally, Camilla loved talking to her sister, but today she couldn't focus on the conversation. "Are you all right, Camilla?" Annabelle asked. "You sound distracted. Is everything okay?" "I'm fine," Camilla lied. "Just tired from last night's event. It was quite busy." "I saw the pictures in the newspapers this morning," Annabelle said. "You and Charles looked wonderful. The charity raised a record amount, didn't they?" "Yes," Camilla said quietly. "It was very successful." After she hung up the phone, Camilla thought about her sister's innocent comment about the newspaper pictures. If this blackmailer went to the press with his story, those same newspapers would be filled with very different pictures and headlines. Instead of celebrating charity work, they would be destroying her reputation and her family's reputation. William decided he needed to do some research. If this secret was from 25 years ago, there might be some record of it somewhere. He had access to security files and police records through his royal connections. but he would have to be very careful about how he searched for information. He called his private secretary, a trusted man who had worked for the royal family for many years. "James, I need you to do something quietly for me. I need you to look into some old records from 1999. Nothing official, just some background research for a personal project." James had worked for royalty long enough to know when not to ask questions. "Of course, Your Royal Highness. What kind of records are you looking for?" William thought carefully about how to phrase his request. "I'm interested in any incidents or accidents that might have involved someone connected to our family, around the time when my father and stepmother were getting to know each other better." "I understand," James said. "I'll see what I can find, discreetly." After James left, William felt slightly better about taking action, but he also felt guilty about investigating Camilla behind her back. If she was innocent, he was betraying her trust, but if she was guilty of something serious, his family needed to know. That afternoon, Catherine found William in his office, staring at his computer screen with a frown. She had been worried about him since last night, and his strange behavior was getting worse. "William, we need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "Something is bothering you, and I can tell it's serious. We promised we would always be honest with each other." William looked up at his wife, seeing the concern in her beautiful blue eyes. Catherine was the most trustworthy person he knew, and he felt terrible for keeping secrets from her. But he also knew that once he told her, there would be no going back. "It's about Camilla," he said finally. "Last night I overheard something that I probably wasn't supposed to hear." Catherine sat down across from him, her face becoming serious. "What kind of something?" William told her everything. He described the man in the corridor, the blackmail demand, and the hints about a terrible secret from Camilla's past. Catherine listened without interrupting, her expression growing more worried with each detail. "Oh my goodness," she said when he finished. "Poor Camilla. She must be terrified. But William, what could she have done that's so serious?" "I don't know," William said. "That's what I'm trying to find out. I've asked James to look into some old records, but I feel terrible about going behind her back like this." Catherine was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Maybe we should just ask her directly. If we approach her with kindness and offer our help, she might tell us the truth." "And if she doesn't?" William asked. "What if this secret is something that could hurt Father or damage the monarchy? Don't we have a responsibility to protect the family?" Catherine nodded slowly. "You're right. But we also have a responsibility to be fair to Camilla. She's been a good stepmother to you, and she makes your father happy. Whatever happened in the past, she's a different person now." While William and Catherine were having their difficult conversation, Camilla was having an even more difficult day. She had tried calling her old financial advisor, hoping he might have some ideas about how to raise a large amount of money quickly. But when she explained that she needed £5 million within 3 days, he was shocked. "Your Majesty, that's an enormous sum," he said. "Even for someone with your resources, that would require selling major assets or taking out significant loans. May I ask what this is for?" Camilla couldn't tell him the truth. "It's for a private charitable donation. Someone I know is in desperate need." The financial advisor was quiet for a moment. "I understand the desire to help others, but this seems quite sudden and quite large. Perhaps you should discuss it with your husband or your advisors before making such a significant decision." After that phone call, Camilla felt even more hopeless. Everyone would want to know why she needed so much money. There was no way to get it without involving other people, and involving other people meant explaining the truth. She considered going to the police and reporting the blackmail, but that would also mean revealing her secret. The police would investigate, and the whole story would eventually come out anyway. As the afternoon wore on, Camilla made a decision that surprised even her. She decided to call the blackmailer and try to negotiate. Maybe she could convince him to take less money, or to accept payments over time, or to just go away and leave her alone. She had kept his phone number from their brief conversation the night before. Her hands shook as she dialed, and her heart pounded as she waited for him to answer. "I was wondering when you would call," the man said when he picked up. His voice sounded amused, as if he was enjoying her suffering. "Please," Camilla said, "you have to be reasonable. £5 million is impossible to raise in 3 days without people asking questions. Surely you understand that." "What I understand," the man said coldly, "is that you've had 25 years to prepare for this day. 25 years to save money or make plans or figure out how to handle the situation. You chose to ignore it and hope it would go away. That was your mistake." "I was young," Camilla pleaded. "I made a terrible decision in a moment of panic. I never meant for anyone to get hurt." "But someone did get hurt, didn't they?" the man said. "Someone got hurt very badly, and you walked away and pretended it never happened." Camilla started crying. "I've spent every day since then trying to make up for it. I've done charity work. I've helped people. I've tried to be a good person." "How nice for you," the man said sarcastically. "But good deeds don't erase the past, and they don't pay my bills. You have 2 days left." The phone went dead, leaving Camilla alone with her tears and her fear. That evening, the royal family had dinner together as planned. Charles had arranged for a quiet family meal at Clarence's house, just him, Camilla, William, and Catherine. He thought it would be nice to relax together after the successful charity event. Charles was in a wonderful mood, talking about how much money they had raised and how many children would benefit from their work. He praised everyone for their efforts and suggested they should plan an even bigger event next year. Camilla tried to participate in the conversation, but William could see that she was struggling. She barely touched her food, and several times he caught her staring off into space with a look of pure terror in her eyes. Catherine also noticed that something was wrong with Camilla, though she didn't know about the blackmail situation. She tried to engage Camilla in conversation about upcoming royal events and family plans, but Camilla's responses were distracted and brief. William found himself watching Camilla carefully, trying to see signs of guilt or deception in her behavior. Was she a criminal who had been fooling them all these years? Or was she a victim who needed their help and protection? During dessert, Charles mentioned that he had received a call from a newspaper reporter asking about some rumors they had heard. Apparently, someone told them there might be an interesting story about our family coming out soon, Charles said with a laugh. "I told them they were welcome to write about our charity work, but that's probably not exciting enough for them." Camilla went completely pale when she heard this. Her fork clattered onto her plate, and she grabbed her water glass with shaking hands. "Are you all right, darling?" Charles asked, concerned. "You've seemed quite unwell today." "I'm fine," Camilla said quickly. "Just a little under the weather. Perhaps I should see a doctor tomorrow." "That's a good idea," Charles said. "We can't have you getting sick before the state visit next week." After dinner, William and Catherine said goodbye and prepared to leave. As they were putting on their coats in the entrance hall, William noticed that Camilla was watching him. When their eyes met, he saw something that surprised him. Instead of guilt or fear, he saw a plea for help. For just a moment, Camilla's carefully maintained mask slipped, and William could see the frightened woman underneath. She looked like someone who was drowning and desperately hoping someone would throw her a lifeline. That look changed everything for William. Whatever Camilla had done in the past, she was clearly suffering now. She was his family, and she needed help. The question was, what was he willing to do to help her? On the drive home, Catherine was quiet for most of the trip. Finally, she turned to William and said, "She knows that you know." What do you mean? William asked. Camilla. She knows that you overheard something last night. I could see it in the way she was looking at you during dinner. She's waiting to see what you're going to do. William gripped the steering wheel tighter. Catherine was right. Camilla had figured out that he knew about the blackmail, and now she was terrified about whether he would help her or expose her. What should I do? William asked his wife. I think, Catherine said carefully, that you should give her a chance to tell you the truth herself. Whatever happened 25 years ago, she's been living with it all this time. Maybe it's time for her to finally share the burden with someone who cares about her. That night, William made a decision. Tomorrow, he would confront Camilla directly and demand the truth, but he would also offer his help, whatever she needed. Family was family, and secrets had a way of destroying everything if they were left to fester in the dark. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew he couldn't pretend he had never overheard that conversation. One way or another, the truth was going to come out. The third day dawned bright and crisp, but for Camilla, it felt like the end of the world. She had exactly 24 hours left to deliver £5 million to the blackmailer, and she was no closer to finding the money than she had been 3 days ago. She sat in her morning room, surrounded by newspapers that praised the charity banquet, knowing that tomorrow these same papers might be destroying her life. She had barely eaten or slept since the confrontation in the palace corridor. Charles was becoming increasingly worried about her health, suggesting she cancel all her appointments and see a specialist. Camilla kept insisting she was fine, but anyone could see she was falling apart. At 10 o'clock that morning, Camilla's private secretary announced that Prince William was requesting an urgent private meeting. Her heart nearly stopped. This was it. He was going to confront her about what he had overheard. Send him in, she said quietly, trying to prepare herself for what was coming. William entered the room looking serious and determined. He closed the door behind him and walked over to where Camilla was sitting. She could see in his eyes that he knew everything. We need to talk, William said simply. Camilla nodded, too frightened to speak. She had been dreading this moment for 3 days, but part of her was also relieved. The weight of carrying this secret alone was crushing her. William sat down across from her. I overheard your conversation with that man 3 nights ago. I know someone is blackmailing you for £5 million. I know it has something to do with something that happened 25 years ago. And I know you're terrified. Camilla's eyes filled with tears. William, I can explain. Then explain, William said, but his voice was kind rather than angry. Tell me what happened. Tell me the truth. Camilla looked out the window for a long moment, gathering her courage. Then she began to speak in a voice so quiet William had to lean forward to hear her. It was 1999, she said. Your parents' marriage was over in everything but name. Your father and I had been seeing each other secretly for several months. We knew it was wrong, but we couldn't help ourselves. We were in love. William nodded. He had suspected his parents' marriage was troubled long before the official separation. One night, Camilla continued, Charles and I went to a small country inn about an hour outside London. We needed somewhere private where we wouldn't be recognized. We had dinner and spent the evening together. When we left, it was very late and very dark. Camilla's voice started shaking. It was raining heavily. The country roads were slippery and dangerous. I was driving because Charles had been drinking wine with dinner. I was being so careful, driving slowly, trying to see through the rain. She stopped talking and covered her face with her hands. William waited patiently for her to continue. There was a young man on a motorcycle, she whispered. He came around a corner too fast. Maybe he was drunk, or maybe he just couldn't see in the rain. He crashed right into my car. William felt his heart sink. This was much worse than he had imagined. He was hurt badly, Camilla continued, tears streaming down her face. Charles wanted to call for help immediately, but I panicked. I was terrified about what would happen if anyone found out we were together. The scandal would have destroyed everything, your father's reputation, the monarchy, your family. So what did you do? William asked, though he dreaded the answer. We called for help, but we left before anyone arrived. We drove away and left that poor boy on the side of the road. I convinced myself that someone else would find him soon, that he would be okay. But he wasn't okay, William. He died that night. William felt sick. Camilla had been involved in a fatal car accident and had fled the scene. A young man had died because she was more worried about protecting her secret affair than getting him help. The man who's blackmailing you, William said slowly. Who is he? His name is Marcus Webb, Camilla said. He was the boy's older brother. He spent years trying to find out what really happened that night. The police investigated, but without witnesses or evidence, they couldn't solve the case. Marcus never stopped looking for answers. How did he find out it was you? Camilla wiped her eyes with a tissue. About 6 months ago, someone came forward, a local farmer who had seen my car near the accident scene. He hadn't said anything before because he wasn't sure what he had seen, but when he saw my picture in a recent magazine article, he remembered. He contacted Marcus with the information. William sat back in his chair, trying to process everything he had heard. His stepmother had been involved in a hit-and-run accident that resulted in someone's death. She had covered it up for 25 years, letting a family suffer without knowing what happened to their son. But he also understood the impossible situation she had been in. If the truth had come out in 1999, it would have destroyed his father and probably ended the monarchy. The scandal of the heir to the throne having an affair with a married woman who was then involved in a fatal accident would have been catastrophic. William, Camilla said desperately, I know what I did was wrong. I know it was unforgivable, but I was so scared, and I thought if I could just get through that night, everything would be okay. I never imagined it would haunt me for the rest of my life. Have you ever tried to contact the family? William asked. To apologize or help them somehow? How could I? Camilla asked. What could I say? That I was sorry I let their son die on the side of the road because I was more worried about protecting my reputation. That I robbed them of 25 years of knowing the truth about what happened? William understood her dilemma, but he also felt angry about the injustice of it all. A family had spent decades wondering what happened to their son, while Camilla had gone on to become queen. What does Marcus want now? William asked. £5 million to keep quiet, Camilla said. But even if I give him the money, he'll be back for more. Blackmailers always come back. This will never end. William was quiet for several minutes, thinking about the situation from every angle. Finally, he looked at Camilla and said, You have two choices. You can pay the blackmail and hope he keeps his word, which he probably won't. Or you can tell the truth and face the consequences. If I tell the truth now, it will destroy everything, Camilla said. Charles will never forgive me for lying to him all these years. The public will hate me even more than they already do. And your father's reputation will be damaged by association. Maybe, William said, or maybe people will understand that you made a terrible mistake when you were young and scared. Maybe they'll see that you've spent 25 years trying to make up for it by doing good work. You're being very kind, Camilla said. But I know the British press. They won't be so forgiving. This story has everything they love. Royal scandal, secret affairs, death, cover-ups. They'll crucify me. William knew she was probably right about the media reaction. The British tabloids were notorious for their harsh treatment of royal family members, especially Camilla. This story would be front-page news for months. There might be a third option, William said slowly. What if we approach Marcus Webb ourselves? What if we offer him something better than money? Like what? Justice, closure. The truth his family has been seeking for 25 years. Camilla looked confused. I don't understand. William leaned forward. What if we arrange for you to meet with the family? What if you tell them exactly what happened and offer to make amends in a more meaningful way than just money? You could set up a foundation in their son's name, you could work with them on causes they care about, you could give them the chance to grieve properly. But that would mean admitting everything publicly, Camilla said. Not necessarily, William replied. We could handle this privately at first. If the family is satisfied with your apology and your efforts to make amends, maybe Marcus will be satisfied too. Maybe he'll realize that destroying you won't bring his brother back. Camilla considered this idea. It was terrifying to think about facing the family she had hurt so badly, but it also felt like the right thing to do. For 25 years, she had been running from her past. Maybe it was time to finally face it. And if they're not satisfied, she asked, if they want to go public anyway? Then we'll deal with that when it happens, William said. But at least you'll have done the right thing. You'll have given them the truth they deserve. Just then, William's phone rang. It was James, his private secretary, with the research results he had requested. Your Royal Highness, James said, I found some information about the incident you asked me to look into. There was indeed a fatal motorcycle accident in 1999 near Little Missenden. A young man named David Webb, age 22, was killed. The case was never solved. William closed his eyes. Hearing the victim's name made everything feel more real and more terrible. Is there anything else? William asked. Yes, sir. David Webb was a university student studying to become a teacher. He was engaged to be married and was working part-time to save money for his wedding. He was well loved by his family and friends. His death devastated the community. William thanked James and hung up the phone. He shared the information with Camilla, who began crying again when she heard about David's hopes and dreams that were cut short. He was just a baby, she sobbed. He had his whole life ahead of him. Getting married, becoming a teacher, maybe having children, and I took all of that away from him. You didn't cause the accident, William reminded her, but you did make the wrong choice afterward. I have to face his family, Camilla said suddenly. You're right. It's time to tell the truth. William nodded. I'll help you arrange it, but first, we need to call Marcus Webb and try to buy ourselves some time. They called Marcus together with William taking the lead. Mr. Webb, this is Prince William. I believe you've been in contact with my stepmother about a private matter. Marcus was clearly surprised to hear from William directly. Your Royal Highness, Yes. I have been speaking with Mrs. Parker Bowles about something that concerns my family. I understand your need for justice, William said, and I believe there's a better way to achieve it than through blackmail. Would you be willing to meet with us to discuss alternatives? There was a long pause. What kind of alternatives? The kind that would give your family the truth and closure they deserve, William said. The kind that would honor your brother's memory in a meaningful way. Marcus agreed to meet them the next day. Camilla spent that evening writing a long letter to Charles, explaining everything that had happened. She decided that regardless of what happened with Marcus, her husband deserved to know the truth. The next morning, William, Camilla, and Marcus Webb met in a private room at a small hotel. Marcus was a middle-aged man who looked tired and angry. 25 years of searching for answers had clearly taken a toll on him. My brother was a good man, Marcus said without preamble. He didn't deserve to die alone on a dark road while the person responsible drove away and forgot about him. You're absolutely right, Camilla said, and I've never forgotten about him. Not for a single day in 25 years. Marcus studied her face. If that's true, then why didn't you come forward sooner? Camilla took a deep breath and told Marcus everything. She explained about the affair, the panic, the terrible decision to leave the scene. She apologized over and over, though she knew words could never undo the damage she had caused. "I can't bring David back," she said finally, "but I want to do whatever I can to honor his memory and help your family heal." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "I've spent half my life hating whoever killed my brother. I've fantasized about making them pay for what they did. But sitting here now, looking at you, I can see that you've been paying for it all along." "That doesn't excuse what I did," Camilla said. "No, it doesn't," Marcus agreed. "But it does make me wonder if destroying your life now would really help anyone." William outlined their proposal. Instead of money, Camilla would establish a charitable foundation in David's name, focusing on education and road safety. She would work personally with the family to decide how the foundation should operate. She would also arrange for a private memorial service where the family could finally say goodbye to David properly. "And if we agree to this," Marcus asked, "what happens to the truth about the accident?" "That would be up to your family," William said. "If you want it to remain private, it will. If you decide the public should know, we'll support that decision." Marcus asked for time to think and to discuss the proposal with his parents and other family members. William and Camilla agreed to wait for his answer. That evening, Camilla finally gave Charles the letter she had written. She sat with him while he read it, watching his face change as he learned the truth about her past. When he finished reading, Charles was quiet for a very long time. Camilla prepared herself for anger, disappointment, maybe even rejection. Instead, Charles took her hand and said, "I wish you had told me sooner. We could have faced this together." "Can you forgive me?" Camilla asked. "There's nothing to forgive between us," Charles said. "You made a mistake when you were young and frightened. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we try to make things right." 3 days later, Marcus Webb called with his family's decision. They had agreed to the foundation proposal, but they also wanted to meet with Camilla in person. The meeting took place at David's grave, with his parents, his former fiancée, and several other family members present. It was the most difficult day of Camilla's life, but also the most important. David's mother, a woman named Sarah Webb, looked at Camilla with tears in her eyes and said, "I don't forgive you for leaving him there. I may never forgive you for that, but I can see that you're truly sorry, and I believe you'll honor his memory." The David Webb Foundation was established 6 months later, providing scholarships for education students and funding road safety initiatives. Camilla worked personally with the foundation and gradually developed a relationship with David's family. The truth about the accident never became public. Marcus Webb decided that destroying Camilla wouldn't bring his brother back, and that the foundation work was a more fitting tribute to David's life. William learned many important lessons from this experience. He learned that everyone, even those in positions of power and privilege, carries secrets and regrets. He learned that justice isn't always about punishment, but sometimes about healing and making amends. Most importantly, he learned that family means standing by each other even when the truth is painful. Camilla never fully recovered from the guilt of what she had done, but she found peace in the knowledge that David's memory was being honored. She worked tirelessly for the foundation, and over time, the Webb family came to see her not as the person who had hurt them, but as someone who was genuinely trying to make amends. The royal family emerged from this crisis stronger than before. The secret that could have destroyed them instead brought them closer together, teaching them the value of truth, forgiveness, and second chances. Years later, when William told this story to his own children, he emphasized that everyone makes mistakes, but what matters most is having the courage to face those mistakes and try to make things right. He wanted them to understand that being royal didn't make them perfect, but it did give them the opportunity to help others and to use their influence for good. The David Webb Foundation continued to grow and helped thousands of students achieve their dreams of becoming teachers. Every year, on the anniversary of David's death, Camilla visited his grave and renewed her promise to honor his memory through her work. In the end, what began as a terrible secret that threatened to destroy everything became the foundation for healing, forgiveness, and positive change. It proved that even the darkest moments in our past can be transformed into opportunities to help others and to become better people. The truth had indeed been unraveled at that banquet, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of causing destruction, it ultimately led to redemption and a deeper understanding of what it means to be human, flawed, and capable of both great mistakes and great love.